You start from that common ground, and it dissolves the perception of separateness, of barriers. And from that place of being on the same side, all of a sudden there's not two sides, you're both on the same side. From that place is what Gary calls, is the scope of infinite possibilities, is reconciliation, is when you both of the disputants or both of the sides of the story are both standing in the eye of the storm, then what is available to you? Everything that God is. All those things, wisdom, peace, love, understanding, creativity, imagination. You can come up with solutions because you're both working on from the same level, from the same place. There is no opponents. There is no opposition. So a peacemaker, which is what Gary says we are, which is what the Bible tells us we are, peacemakers, invites the whole situation or both parts of the story into the eye of the storm. And peacemaking is not about relieving discomfort. I don't know if you've ever done that, but sometimes it's like you get so uncomfortable, you think, okay, I give up. I don't want this tension anymore. We'll just agree, But that's not what peacemaking is. Peacemaking is not about relieving discomfort or anxiety. It's about standing together in God, in the oneness, and from that place finding and exploring the avenues of the next step. I think I used the quote before about agree with your adversary quickly. We don't want to be in adversarial roles with each other. That's what's happened all through history. That's happening all over the world. And you get sides. So if we can come from a place, and it takes some imagination, and it takes some discipline and some willingness to find the common ground, to find out where we actually agree. I was working with another person, and we were trying to organize an event, and email does have its shortcomings. We were doing a lot of communication by email, and I could see that we were getting actually further and further apart of coming and of working together, really, of agreeing on what we were doing. And we started to get into the conversation, well, you said this, and no, I didn't say that, and yeah, and finally I thought, you know what? This never ends. And we see it in our world today, don't we? The pointing fingers back and forth. It will never end until one person stops. Luckily, all of a sudden I got the idea, and I thought, you know what? I didn't even know about this peacemaking stuff, but I thought, where do we agree? Where did we go wrong? Because we were working together when this project started. We had a goal in mind. So I wrote to her and I said, you know what? When we got together, the purpose of this was to provide, this service and to do this workshop, and that is still my goal. I didn't do any more of the, well, you said, that stuff. That's all I said. And I got an email back from her, and she said, you're right. That was what we were about. And then we just went on from there. You can do the back and forth stuff forever. But when we can find the common ground, you see, when you feel yourself being pulled out in the storm, you're not living in the center. Find out where that common ground is, because it's there. It's there. Find that and articulate it, and see if you can, all of a sudden, you're on the same side. So being a peacemaker means being fully present to life. And I don't know about you, but there's sometimes when I just kind of go through my day or periods of time on autopilot. That's not being fully present. Being fully present is being aware of what's going on around you, as well as being aware of your divinity and your spirituality at the same time. Because that's the present moment, and that's who we are. Peacemaking allows us to bridge the gap of separation and discover the oneness. And from there we can access all the possibilities, all the new ways of thinking of things, all the ways that have never been thought of before, because we keep following the same old tracks. So peacemaking happens between people, and guess what? It also happens within ourselves. How do you treat yourself? You ever get in an argument with yourself? This way, that way. And you can get really, tugging back and forth. Like those, I just love those cartoons. I can't remember which character it was, but maybe it was Donald Duck or something. He's got the little the little one angel on one shoulder, the one angel on the other shoulder, and one's like saying da-da-da, and the other one's going and he's being torn back and forth. So how do we bring peacemaking into that situation? Because it happens in us. We get into adversarial roles with each other, with ourselves, with parts of ourselves. Gary had the experience where he had a near-death experience, and in that moment, what went through his mind is all the people that he never, that he hadn't made amends to, is one way of saying. All the situations where he realized that he had acted out, not out of his worthiness or out of impatience or frustration or greed or fear, all those things, that he never got back to making, to putting that at peace, to reconciling that. And so he decided, he thought, I'm going to do a day-by-day reconciliation program for myself. And every night before he went to sleep, he reviewed the day and all the interactions that took place. And he, with God as his loving, kind support. This is not a judgmental thing we do for ourselves. This is just bringing things to our awareness. Where did we speak out of our wholeness? Where did we speak out of fear or frustration or impatience? Where were we not really expressing our highest and best? Where were we living not on purpose, not being an expression of God, being in the way of God? So he did this every night for 4 weeks. And he asked God, show me the places where I need to get back to these people. Sometimes it's appropriate that we do get in contact with these people or situations where we have acted in such a way. So God, he really stressed, God as his loving, supportive mentor during this process identified a certain number of people that he needed to get back to. And so the next day he would do that before he did any of his personal business. He would make the phone calls, he would go see people. So after 4 weeks, what he said is he noticed a few things. He said, you know what? Reconciliation gets easier with practice. So, and that's certainly been the truth for me. There's a time in my life when I wouldn't say I was sorry. I don't care what you did to me. There's no way I'm not saying I did anything wrong. I lived like that for a long time. A long time. And it wasn't the I'm sorry, well, you bump into somebody, say I'm sorry. That's okay. I could do that. I could be polite and do the manners thing. But when I really felt like, when I had really goofed up and done something really out of whack, I would do other things, but I would never say I was wrong. I'd take them out for tea or I'd buy them, you do this other stuff, right? But you're not really being honest with yourself and the situation and with the other person. But, as I said at the beginning, the universe provides us with many opportunities to grow. And so I had hundreds of these opportunities to acknowledge that I had been wrong. And it did get easier. It really did. It's not a problem for me now. It got easier to just, what happens is that I'd stew about it, and all this time would go by, and I'd always have this thing in the back of my mind, and then finally I'd get to it, and I'd blurt it out, and I'd say, oh, why didn't I do that before? Instead of suffering all these weeks or months or years. So now I learned that. As soon as it comes to my mind, I'm back on it. So reconciliation becomes easier with practice. Because I understood that my value did not depend on what I said or did. Okay? If you think that who you are is wrapped up in what you do, then when you do something that's not appropriate, then you think that you're not a good person. You see, and when you can make that distinction, when I made that distinction that, I'm a whole and perfect child of God, I'm a spiritual being, I make mistakes, I'm a human being too. Then it's okay to say, I goofed, I was wrong. Please accept my apology. It gets easier. The second thing he noticed was that those people with whom the people that you contact appreciate the reconciliation and the relationships are enhanced. I don't know, has anyone experienced someone coming back and saying that, apologizing for something that they had done, and you just feel like your heart just opens? You know that took guts, and you can understand that that it wasn't a mindless thing, that they actually realized that they had done something, and had taken the time and the courage to come back and talk to you about it. It's a wonderful thing. So it enhances relationships. It builds community. when we're willing to be vulnerable and open. Being vulnerable does not make you weak. It makes you strong. The third thing that he noticed is that his own awareness of when he was falling short was increased. And this is what's happened, to me as well, is that you notice more quickly, whoops, that I was not being an expression of God when I said that or when I did that. You notice it more quickly, and it's so much easier just to reconcile quickly then. So our awareness about our actions increases, and our consciousness and awareness grows. So what I'd like you to do right at this moment is you have these cards in your bulletin. This is our saying for our last Sunday. I am centered in the eye of the storm. I am centered and I am a peacemaker. So if you would like to sign both of these, put one in the love offering basket, take the other one home to remind you that we are peacemakers. We have the ability at every moment to find the common ground, to bring the situation back into the eye, to not live out of the confusion and the fear. So every moment of the day, we have the opportunity to live our purpose, to be an expression of God, to let God's light and God's love flow through you so that you can be an active channel of God's good. So go out and be the blessing that only you can be.